David here with figbootonpens. Today I have something that I believe is three things. I think it is unique, I think it is interesting, and it is one more thing that I'll go over a little bit later in the review. And what it is the Sailor My First set. What I'm going to do is go over some of the parts and features of this set, tell you what I care for, some of the things I don't care for about it, show some measurements, some size comparisons, and then provide a writing sample. Here's the box that it comes in. I had purchased this set about a year ago, but the good folks over at JetPens were kind enough to send me over a set that I will be giving away at the end of this review. So stay tuned, and I'll let you know how you can enter and win this very set. On the front, besides Sailor, the only thing that is written in English is My First, and it's called My First, not My First Pen, just My First. And then there's some examples of some Japanese characters. Inside, we have some cleaning and filling instructions that are pretty standard. And then inside, more importantly, we have the pen. Now this pen comes as a set, and that the pen that's included is the Sailor Clear Candy, and you could purchase that outside of this set as well. And I believe the Clear Candy is Sailor's least expensive model. I've seen them anywhere from $10 to $25, and they come in a variety of different colors and patterns. And in regard to the My First set, though, the pen comes in all black with just some different colored trims. There's a black trim, a dark blue trim, and then a red trim. And this pen has the blue trim. It's a little dark, but it doesn't contrast with the black that much, but it's there. Let's start with the cap. It's pretty tough to see, but on the rounded finial, there's a star. On some of the other Clear Candy models outside of this set, the star is the accent color. Actually, I have one here. Here's a demonstrator or a clear Candy, and you can see the star at the end of the finial. The clip is rather basic, that it is thick, but it does have a decent amount of tension to it. I wouldn't want to push it too far since it's plastic, though. The cap tapers up ever so slightly, only about a millimeter from one end to the other. And then we have the color accent at the end of the cap. And engraved above it, it says Sailor. Well, actually, it's not engraved. I think it's printed or painted on there. It's not engraved. Then there is a step down to the barrel, which is a little bit on the sharp side. And then the barrel tapers down very slightly, only about a millimeter and a half, to a rounded end. The cap twists off to reveal this gorgeous nothing. And as you might have noticed, that this pen actually comes with two different nibs, which we'll get to here in a little bit. But first of all, this is a Cartridge Converter pen. It requires a proprietary Sailor cartridge or converter. It does not come with a converter, but it does come with three cartridges. There's a black, a sky blue, and a pink. And you cannot eyedropper this pen. At first I thought that it would be perfect for converting it to an eyedropper, but since it's all plastic, but the seal here at the end of the barrel isn't airtight. You could blow into the end and you could feel some air coming out. So if you put ink in the barrel, eventually the ink will get out of the barrel. So, okay, this pen comes with two different lightweight steel nibs. First of all, it comes with a medium fine nib for standard writing. You can see here it's rather basic, but has the Sailor anchor and an MF for medium fine. And here's a picture of the plastic feed as well. All you do is you just push the cartridge or converter into the back of the section here, just like most other pens, and then it screws onto the barrel. The section has a little flare at the end. It's a bit on the thin side, but tapers up to meet the cap with the cap threads on the barrel. The clear candy is very light, so you probably want to write with this pen posted to add a little bit of weight. It posts securely and doesn't backweight the pen at all. But I will say, though, as I mentioned previously, the cap is a bit on the sharp side. So if this portion here rubs against your hand, it might be a little uncomfortable. Random fact of the day, the skin that is between your thumb and forefinger is called the perlicue. So that's your fact of the day. This pen is made of lightweight injection molded plastic, and it definitely feels like a bargain pen, a bit on the cheap side. But now we have the interesting part. The other nib that comes with this set is a fude nib. Fude is the Japanese word for a writing brush, or a paintbrush used to write. The distinctive feature of a fude nib is that the end of the nib is angled up around 45 degrees, as you can see here. The purpose of this is to replicate brush strokes with writing things like Japanese characters. You can see here that the fude nib also has the Anchor logo and MF for medium fine as well. You might notice that the fude nib doesn't have any tipping. I'll demonstrate in the writing sample, but this design allows you to alter your line width based on the angle of the nib in relation to the paper. To the point where the angled portion of the nib is actually flat on the page. It doesn't work great for that for Roman characters that much, but it works really well for Japanese characters. At the top of this review, I mentioned that this set was three things. I said it was unique, I said it was interesting, and also I said it was one more thing that I would talk about later. And that thing is, it is discontinued. Sailor has stopped manufacturing these sets, but JetPens actually currently still does have stock of each of the color options. But once that stock is gone, then it is gone. And I believe that JetPens is the only U.S. online pen retailer where these are available. I think there's a couple of UK-based retailers, but as far as the U.S. goes, JetPens is it, I believe, other than random eBay and Amazon sellers. If you would like to win this very set, then all you need to do is just leave a comment here on YouTube. Today is Saturday, September 10th, 2016. Sometime after midnight on Tuesday, September 13th, 2016, I'll randomly select a winner and mail this out to wherever you are in the world. The last two winners for contests have been from Australia and from England. So in regard to a topic, since this set is called the My First, why don't you let me know what the very first pen that or fountain pen that you ever owned was. Mine was a silver Lamy All-Star that I purchased actually from JetPens. In regard to these sets, though, like I said, once they're gone, they're gone. And so if you're interested in one, there is a link in the notes below to JetPen's site where you can find them. And the cost for this set is $33, which is a reasonable price for what you get, especially a fude nib that has a tendency to be very expensive when you're talking about high-end nibs. So it gives you a chance to try it out and play around with it. So now it's time for some measurements, some size comparisons, and then I'll provide a writing sample. So here we go with the size comparisons for the Sailor Clear Candy. Here it is in regard to a Pilot Metropolitan, and then here it is with a TWSBI Vac Mini. And I mentioned it earlier, but here it is with a silver Lamy All-Star, which was actually my very first pen that I purchased. And then in regard to some Sailor pens, here it is next to a Sailor King of Pen, and then a Pro Gear 2, and then something a little different. This is something I picked up right after the DC show. This is from a pen company called Canalia, and this is a Nui Nalu. and it kind of represents a wave, and you can see by this pattern that it really does represent a wave. And so we'll be definitely looking at this in a later review, but that's what it looks like in comparison to there. So we have here the Sailor Clear Candy, and we'll call it the My First set. This is the medium fine nib, and that the ink that I'm using is Pilot Ibrosuzuku, and this is Amairo. This is what the bottle looks like. These are some of my favorite bottles. They're just really solid glass, and they just look beautiful, and I love the little notch at the bottom here. But it's the bottles are amazing, and the ink is really cool as well. This is what the ink actually looks like. And it's not that far away from the Konpeki, just a little bit on the lighter side. Doesn't quite have as much sheen or pop as the Konpeki does. It's very similar to like the Franklin Christoph Spanish Blue. So it's very similar to that. So what I'm going to do is do a writing sample with the medium fine nib, and then we'll move on to the Fude nib. So here it is, the writing sample for the medium fine nib. The medium fine nib, you're not going to get a lot of line variation out of this. This is an inexpensive steel nib that is on the smaller side. It is a bit on the toothy side, and it is a bit dry as well. In regard to reverse writing, it can be done, but it is very scratchy. And some fast writing, the feed keeps up perfectly fine. So now let's go ahead and change out nib units, because the medium fine nib isn't pretty much what you're buying this pen for. It's the Fude nib. And so you can see in here now I just have a Sailor converter, and we'll go ahead and take this out and put it on the Fude. Now, I had this on here previously, so I don't need to prime the feed, so it should pretty much write right away. And yeah, it pretty much writes right away. So what we have here is and I'm just going to write in just normal handwriting, even though that's not necessarily what's going to show off this pen. So we have the Sailor My First, and this is the Fude nib. So you can tell, even just writing the Roman characters, that it does add a little bit of distinction to your writing, and that when basically it's as you angle. So I have it angled up. Well, let's try to get a good look at this. If I angle it up very steeply, you can see that it's very thin. And then let's do this a little bit differently. The more I go down, the thicker the line gets. That's not a very good demonstration of that, but I think you get the idea that when it is up, it's a very thin line. Further down gets to be a thicker line. And as well, even when it's flat against the page, the downward strokes are rather thick, but the side-to-side strokes are much thicker, you can tell. And while the medium fine nib was a bit on the dry side, that the Food Aid nib is a bit on the juicy side and lays down a good amount of ink. And you can really get a wide line when you go left to right. Now, let's see if I can actually draw a Japanese character. I know that my handwriting in English isn't the greatest, so maybe my Japanese will be better. So let's go ahead and try this. Let's see here. Okay, so now I'll put up on the screen what that's supposed to be, and that is actually supposed to say sailor in Japanese. So hopefully I said sailor and not something extremely offensive. Maybe if you speak Japanese, you can let me know how heinous my characters are. Is this kindergarten level, first grade level? Maybe I'm kindergarten level, might be pushing it on the high side. So there you have the Sailor Clear Candy and my first set. I wanted to give thanks again to JetPens for providing me an extra set to give away. I appreciate it. There's a link down below in the notes in order to go ahead and purchase this from their site. Like I said, they are discontinued, so the stock that is there is the stock that is there, and once it's gone, it's gone. So if you're interested in this, you might want to pick one up. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.